All right, let's dive into a story that, well, on the surface, it feels like a simple fable, but it's actually just an incredibly sharp look at power, principles, and what happens when things go really wrong after a revolution.
Hmm.
Today, we're going deep into the complete text of George Orwell's Animal Farm.
That's right. It's the story of a farm that decides to take destiny into its own, hooves and paws, overthrowing its human masters.
Mm.
But the core of this deep dive, I think, is really following the story as the text tells it, tracing that journey from the initial hopeful rebellion right through to its, well, stark, unsettling conclusion.
Absolutely. Our mission is to stay purely within the narrative presented in the tech itself. We want to pick out those crucial turning points, the initial ideals they declare, how practical reality hit, and exactly how power and principle shifted along the way.
Yeah.
We'll meet the characters as they appear, the neglectful Mr. Jones, the visionary old Major, and the animals who drive the change, especially the key pigs like Napoleon, Snowball, and Squealer.
And Boxer, of course.
Oh, definitely Boxer, the steadfast Boxer, the pragmatic Benjamin, Molly, Moses, and the rest of the farm inhabitants.
It's a text just packed with impactful moments, and we really want to pull out the nuggets that show how it all unfolds step by step, according to Orwell's own words.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So we start on Manor Farm, and the text paints a pretty clear picture of life under Mr. Jones in chapter 1. It's tough.
It really is.
Animals are working hard, getting very little back, and constantly under the threat of neglect, like Jones being too drunk to even remember to shut the henhouse pop holes.
That little detail about the pop holes, it's small, but it perfectly sets the stage, doesn't it? It shows the indifference, the mismanagement that, breeds resentment.
Yeah.
And into this steps old Major.
Right. His speech is the spark. He gathers everyone and lays out their reality. Their lives are miserable, laborious, and short. He says no animal is free after a year old.
Hmm.
And his diagnosis for this suffering, it's crystal clear. Man.
Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. That's his core argument right there. He doesn't work the land, doesn't produce food himself, yet he takes everything the animals create. It's a powerful simplification of their exploitation.
And from this analysis comes the call to rebellion. He sees it as inevitable, basically, and stresses unity. All animals are comrades. All men are enemies. That phrase becomes a cornerstone, doesn't it, of their early thinking.
It really does. But he also includes these critical warnings. He tells them specifically what not to become once they're free. Don't live in houses, sleep in beds, wear clothes, drink alcohol, touch money, engage in trade.
All those human vices.
Exactly. And absolutely, fundamentally,
Yeah.
all animals are equal. These are the initial principles laid out right at the start.
And the vision of this future without man inspires a song he remembers, Beasts of England. The text even gives us a sense of the tune, something between Clementine and La Cucaracha.
Catchy.
Yeah, it's catchy, it's stirring, and the animals just take to it instantly.
Old Major passes away quite quickly after that, but that song, that vision, it lingers. It starts to fuel secret planning among the animals. And the pigs, described as the most intelligent, they naturally take the lead in developing his ideas into a system they call animalism.
And this is where we really get introduced to the main pig players. Snowball, who's described as quick-witted, a planner.
Vivacious, inventive.
Right. And then Napoleon, more reserved, but known for getting his way, maybe lacking some of Snowball's initial idealism. The text hints at a depth there.
Yeah, a bit more calculating perhaps. And Squealer.
Ah, Squealer the talker. The text is very pointed about Squealer, small, fat, but a brilliant talker, able to turn black into white with his words and sort of his mannerisms.
He's crucial later on.
Mm.
But trying to explain animalism to everyone else, it proves tricky at first. Some animals are just set in their ways, others are apathetic.
And then you have characters like Molly.
Oh, Molly.
Yeah, she's more concerned about whether there will still be sugar and ribbons in the future than, the revolutionary ideals.
And Moses the Raven. Always distracting everyone with his talk of sugar candy mountain, sort of pie-in-the-sky promise.
What's interesting is that the rebellion itself, when it happens in Chapter 2, it isn't actually a planned uprising like Old Major maybe envisioned.
No, it's spontaneous.
Exactly. Triggered by Jones and his men neglecting to feed them again. The animals are simply pushed too far, and they just drive the humans out.
It really highlights that while the ideals came from that speech, the catalyst was the very practical, immediate hardship, hunger.
Yeah. So the animals secure the farm, they destroy the symbols of human tyranny, the whips, the bits, the nose rings, even Molly's hated ribbons.
In a very symbolic moment.
And their reaction to entering the farmhouse for the first time, it's fascinating. It's full of like fear and wonder, and their first collective decision about it is crucial. It must be preserved as a museum. No animal must ever live there.
A resolution that doesn't last, of course.
No. And Molly, predictably, is immediately distracted by her reflection in a mirror.
Typical Molly. So the new order is established quickly. The farm gets renamed Animal Farm. And Snowball, being literate, writes the 7 commandments on the barn wall.
These are the core principles they're meant to live by. The text lists them out, embodying Old Major's warnings. No clothes, no beds, no alcohol, no killing other animals.
All animals are equal.
All animals are equal. 2 legs are the enemy. 4 legs or wings are friends. It's all there.
But immediately, the text shows us a small but really significant test of these principles. The cows need milking.
Right.
The pigs manage it, being clever. But then, what about the milk? Napoleon quickly changes the subject, focuses everyone on the harvest, and by the evening,
The milk is gone. It's such a subtle moment, isn't it? But it's the first resource taken, the first question deflected.
it is. It's the first little crack in that initial equality. And it definitely foreshadows how controlling resources will become a tool for the pigs.
Moving into chapters 3 and 4, though, there's real success initially, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. That first harvest under animal control is a huge success. They work harder, sure, but they work for themselves. And the result is actually bigger and quicker than under Jones. No waste.
And Boxer is the embodiment of this spirit, really. His strength is immense, and his personal motto, I will work harder, that just defines this whole period.
It does. And you see the different levels of commitment, too. Clover is diligent. Benjamin is still cynical, but does his share.
Then there's Molly shirking and the cat vanishing at work time.
Right. It shows the range of animal personalities.
Yeah.
And Sundays become structured. The flag hoisting green with a hoof and horn.
The meetings, singing Beasts of England, recreation time.
And crucially, the pigs set themselves apart early. They establish a headquarters in the harness room to study human books. That signals their intellectual dominance starting to develop.
Snowball throws himself into organizing. All these committees, which the text notes mostly fail things like the Egg Production Committee, the Clean Tails League.
Bless him for trying. It shows his energy, though, and his belief in, formal structure and progress.
Education is attempted, but the literacy levels are really uneven. And this becomes key later.
Hugely significant.
Yeah.
The dogs learn just enough to read the commandments. Muriel, the goat, can read a bit. Benjamin is fully literate, but chooses not to engage.
And poor Boxer. He tries so hard but can only learn A, B, C, D.
That intellectual gap is just massive, and it gets exploited.
Recognizing this difficulty for, as the text says, the stupider animals, Snowball simplifies the core principle down to that really memorable slogan, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
And he explains that wings count as legs for this purpose, which is logical enough.
Yeah, and the sheep, interestingly, they immediately take to this slogan. They just bleed it constantly.
While Snowball is busy with all this organizing and educating, Napoleon is making a quieter but maybe more significant move.
Yes, the puppies.
He takes Jessie and Bluebell's 9 newborn puppies away from their mothers, saying he'll be responsible for their education. He raises them himself in a secluded loft.
This is such a critical move that goes largely unnoticed by the other animals at the time. It's quite sinister in hindsight.
Definitely. And then the mystery of the milk and the windfall apples from Chapter 2. It's finally explained. They're being reserved exclusively for the pigs.
And Squealer is the one who has to justify this, isn't he?
Of course. He argues that the pigs need these nutrients for their brain work, which is vital for the farm's overall welfare, the management, the organization.
And he uses the ultimate argument, the fear tactic.
Yeah.
If the pigs don't get this special treatment, their brains won't function, they'll fail. And Jones might come back.
And that does the trick. Fear of the past becomes this powerful tool for controlling the present. The animals accept it because the memory of Jones is still so potent. And, well, Squealer is just incredibly persuasive.
So news of the rebellion starts to spread, carried by pigeons to the neighboring farms. Foxwood, run by Pilkington, and Pinchfield, run by Frederick.
And the human farmers. They're terrified, naturally, but they're also calculating. They spread lies about animal farm cannibalism, torture, all sorts of nasty stuff, while secretly hoping to maybe benefit from Jones's misfortune.
But that song, Beasts of England, It keeps spreading among other animals on other farms. It becomes this symbol of potential rebellion that really, really terrifies the humans.
It's irrepressible.
This fear then leads to the first organized human counterattack in Chapter 4, The Battle of the Cowshed. Jones gets help from men from the other farms, and they try to retake Animal Farm.
And Snowball, who has apparently been studying an old book of Julius Caesar's campaigns he found in the farmhouse.
Right. He leads the animals heroically. He has a plan.
Boxer fights fiercely, but he's deeply distressed when he thinks he's killed a stable lad. It shows that original animal kindness, that reluctance to kill.
But Snowball dismisses it, doesn't he? He declares the harsh rule. War is war. The only good human being is a dead one, which is quite a shift.
It is, and Molly, predictably, is nowhere to be seen during the fighting, found hiding in her stall.
Naturally. But the animals win decisively. The men are routed.
A major victory for them.
And the aftermath is important, too. Snowball and Boxer are decorated as Animal Hero First Class, using horse brasses found in the harness room. A sheep killed in action gets Animal Hero Second Class posthumously.
They name the battle of the Cowshed, and decide to commemorate it along with the anniversary of the rebellion by firing Jones's gun twice a year. It's a moment of, real triumph, solidifying the new order.
Okay, so Chapter 5 then begins with something maybe less surprising, Molly's defection.
Yeah, that was probably coming. She's found being petted and fed sugar by a human from Pilkington's farm across the hedge. She even has ribbons hidden.
She just chooses the comfort she knew. She leaves Animal Farm and is never mentioned again, except maybe as a cautionary tale.
Her priorities were always different. But this chapter, Chapter 5, marks a really decisive shift in power on the farm.
It really does. The text states the pigs now decide all policy. It's supposed to be ratified by a majority vote at the Sunday meetings, but Snowball and Napoleon are increasingly at odds. They disagree on everything.
Constantly disputing. Their differing approaches are really stark now. Snowball is full of plans, committees, grand visions of progress, always looking ahead.
While Napoleon is quieter, seems to have no plans of his own initially, but focuses on consolidating power behind the scenes, building his support, especially among the sheep.
And this clash comes to a head over the windmill.
The windmill project. Snowball draws up these detailed plans for a windmill on the knoll. It's going to generate electricity, like the stalls, provide heating, run machinery.
He promises it'll reduce the working week to just 3 days. A technological utopia almost.
But Napoleon opposes it vehemently. He argues they need to focus on increasing food production now. He shows his contempt by, literally urinating on Snowball's carefully drawn plans.
A pretty clear statement of opposition. This debate, windmill or food production, becomes the central dividing line at the Sunday meetings. The animals are split.
And then at the critical meeting, where they're supposed to vote on the windmill, Napoleon makes his move.
The moment everything changes.
He utters this high-pitched whimper, a signal nobody else understands, and suddenly the 9 dogs he took as puppies burst into the barn.
Fully grown now, fierce, wearing studded collars.
Exactly, and they chase Snowball right off the farm. He runs for his life, squeezes through the hedge, and he's never seen again. It's a violent coup.
The removal of the rival, plain and simple, using force.
And immediately, Napoleon changes everything. Sunday meetings become purely ceremonial. Hoist the flag, sing Beasts of England, receive orders for the week. Debates are abolished.
No more voting.
No more voting. Old Major's skull is dug up and set on a post by the flagpole, turning the revolutionary leader into this, icon for the new regime. And Napoleon, Squealer, and the other pigs, plus the dogs, they now sit on a raised platform, separate.
The hierarchy is physically established. The animals are shocked, dismayed, but what can they do?
Nothing. The dogs growl menacingly if anyone tries to speak up, and the sheep start their incessant bleating of 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, just drowning out any possible dissent.
It shows how effectively force, combined with simple, repetitive propaganda, can suppress opposition.
And here's where Squealer becomes absolutely indispensable to Napoleon. He immediately steps in to justify Snowball's expulsion.
His job is to spin it.
Completely. He paints Snowball as a criminal, a traitor, a dangerous influence. He even starts rewriting history, claiming Snowball was basically working with Jones all along and was a coward at the Battle of the Cowshed.
Which is the exact opposite of what the animals remember.
Exactly. But Squealer is so convincing, he even spins Napoleon's previous opposition to the windmill. He claims it was just tactics, comrades, tactics. A clever maneuver to get rid of the dangerous Snowball. Napoleon was secretly in favor all along, you see.
It's pure propaganda. The active rewriting of history and the creation of a convenient enemy snowball becomes the scapegoat. Squealer's persuasive language, backed by the dog's threat, ensures the animals accept these lies, even against their own memories.
It's quite chilling how effective it is. And then, surprise, surprise, Napoleon announces the windmill will be built after all, claiming it was his idea all along, planned in secret by a special pig committee. But now it's presented differently. It will take 2 years, it will be hard work, and rations might need to be reduced. The goal isn't animal comfort anymore. It's a symbol of progress under Napoleon's leadership.
Chapter 6 then describes this immense effort to build the windmill. The animals work, as the text says, like slaves. But there's still this lingering belief, at least initially, that they are working for themselves, not for humans.
The workload is brutal, 60 hours a week, plus voluntary Sunday afternoon work.
Voluntary in name only. If you don't do it, your rations are halved.
Right. And Boxer's devotion just deepens. His 2 mottos now are, I will work harder. And significantly, Napoleon is always right. He pushes himself to the absolute limit, becoming the powerhouse of the windmill construction.
Building it is incredibly difficult. Hauling stone from the quarry, breaking it up. It's brutal work, and Boxer's strength is absolutely essential. They couldn't do it without him.
But shortages start to emerge. Paraffin oil, nails, string, dog biscuits, iron for horseshoes, things they can't produce on the farm themselves.
This practical reality leads to another major policy shift, a violation of the early principles. Napoleon announces Animal Farm will engage in trade with humans.
A shocker for the animals.
Definitely. They'll sell a stack of hay, part of the wheat crop, and later, eggs. This will be done through a solicitor, a Mr. Whymper, who will act as an intermediary. Napoleon justifies this by saying the needs of the windmill override any previous resolutions.
And again, there's this uneasiness among the animals. They vaguely remember the early meetings, the resolutions against dealings with humans, against using money.
Those warnings from Old Major.
Exactly. But Squealer steps in once more. He basically gaslights them, telling them they must have dreamed it or that Snowball spread those lies. He asks if they have any written record of such a resolution. Of course they don't.
Because they can't read or write well enough. Control the records, control the past.
And more changes creep in. The pigs move into the farmhouse, a direct violation of that early unanimous resolution.
And they start sleeping in beds.
Right. When Clover thinks she remembers a commandment against beds, she asks Muriel to read the wall. And the commandment now says, no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets.
Ah, the subtle alteration.
Squealer explains that a bed is just a place to sleep, like a pile of straw. The sheets, those are the human invention that's forbidden. It's linguistic trickery, but it works.
And the pigs also start getting up an hour later than the other animals. The privileges accumulate.
And then disaster strikes. A great storm hits the farm in November, violent winds, and in the morning...
Windmill is in ruins. All that work destroyed.
Napoleon's reaction is immediate and, well, telling. He doesn't blame the storm.
No, he immediately blames Snowball. He declares Snowball crept onto the farm under cover of darkness and destroyed their work out of spite. He even claims to find pig footprints leading away.
He announces a death sentence on Snowball and offers a reward, animal hero, second class, and half a bushel of apples for his capture. The destroyed windmill is instantly weaponized as proof of Snowball's ongoing treachery.
It unites the animals again, against the external enemy. Clever manipulation.
Moving into chapters 7 and 8, rebuilding the windmill begins immediately in the bitter winter weather. Conditions are incredibly harsh. Hardship intensifies, rations are reduced for everyone.
Except, of course, for the pigs and the dogs.
Naturally, and Napoleon implements measures to deceive the outside world, particularly Mr. Whymper, about the food shortages. He has the storage bins filled mostly with sand, then covered with the remaining grain and meal.
The appearance of prosperity must be maintained even if the animals are starving. It's all about external perception now.
This pressure, the need for resources, culminates in the Hens Rebellion. Napoleon makes a contract to sell 600 eggs a week through Whymper. For the hens, this is devastating.
Yeah. They see it as murder, basically.
Yeah.
Taking their potential chicks, they protest violently, flying up to the rafters and smashing their eggs on the floor rather than give them up.
Napoleon's response is swift and brutal. He cuts off their rations completely and decrees that any animal caught giving them even a single grain of corn will be punished by death.
The dogs enforce this blockade. It's terrifying. After 5 days, the hens are forced to capitulate. 9 hens are stated to have died in the meantime.
This is a horrifying escalation, isn't it? It's the first instance of the pigs regime directly causing the death of other animals on the farm, fundamentally breaking that core commandment about not killing other animals.
It's a major turning point towards internal terror. And Snowball, he becomes the scapegoat for absolutely everything that goes wrong.
A broken window, a blocked drain, a lost key.
It's always Snowball's fault. Napoleon even performs these little rituals, sniffing the ground, claiming to detect Snowball's scent, reinforcing the idea of this invisible, omnipresent enemy.
This climate of fear and constant scapegoating then just explodes in that terrible purge. Napoleon calls a meeting. The dogs suddenly seize 4 young pigs who had previously questioned Napoleon's decisions.
The ones who protested when Sunday debates were abolished?
Exactly. They drag them forward, terrified. Under pressure, maybe torture, they confess to being Snowball's secret agents, working with him since his expulsion, even planning to help Jones retake the farm. And the moment they finish confessing,
The dogs tear their throats out, right there, in front of everyone.
it's brutal. And it doesn't stop there. More confessions and executions follow. 3 hens, the leaders of the egg rebellion, confess. A goose, some sheep. They confess to various invented crimes, collaborating with Snowball.
And the dogs kill them all. The pile of corpses grows. The other animals are utterly shocked, terrified, miserable. They remember the commandment, no animal shall kill any other animal.
This is the moment the terror truly arrives internally. It's state-sanctioned murder. Clover's reflection on the knoll afterwards is just heart-wrenching. She looks out over the farm and realizes this isn't the future they fought for.
Not freedom and equality.
No, it's a place of fear, where no one dares speak their mind, guarded by fierce, growling dogs. This isn't what Old Major dreamed of.
And the animals, in their misery, spontaneously start singing Beasts of England. But it's different this time. It's mournful, slow, sad.
And immediately after this purge, Squealer announces that Beasts of England has been abolished.
The timing is deliberate.
Absolutely. He says it's no longer needed. It was a song of the rebellion, but the rebellion is now complete. The enemy is defeated, both external and internal. Singing it is pointless, even forbidden.
A new song by Minimus, the pig poet, replaces it. A song praising Animal Farm itself, basically praising Napoleon's regime. The Song of Revolution is officially replaced by a song of loyalty to the state.
And predictably, the commandments are altered again. Clover asks Muriel to read the 6th commandment again, the one about killing.
And it now says, no animal shall kill any other animal without cause.
That crucial addition. The animals, traumatized by the executions and having just heard the victims labeled as traitors who worked with Snowball, accept this revision. They assume there was cause.
The justification is built right into the law itself. It's insidious.
Life continues to get harder. Work increases, rations decrease. Squealer reads out figures proving production is up, but it doesn't feel that way. Yet the pigs' privileges grow. They get mash with milk and apples, and now beer is brewed for them.
Napoleon's status is constantly elevated. He's given formal titles like our leader, Comrade Napoleon. His birthday becomes a holiday with a gun salute. Squealer's propaganda machine never stops, constantly praising Napoleon, reinforcing the pig's necessity, and reminding everyone of the threats.
Trade relations shift back and forth. Napoleon enters into complex negotiations with both Pilkington of Foxwood and Frederick of Pinchfield over selling a pile of seasoned timber.
Playing them off against each other.
Exactly. Propaganda fuels hate campaigns, first against Pilkington, then violently against Frederick. Death to Frederick. Rumors spread about the cruelties on Frederick's farm. Pigeons are told to avoid Foxwood and spread slogans against Frederick. And the second windmill is finally finished. Built with walls twice as thick this time. The animals are immensely proud, despite everything. They feel it's invincible, a huge accomplishment, a symbol of their own labor.
But immediately, betrayal follows triumph. Napoleon announces he has sold the timber, not to Pilkington as everyone expected, but to the hated Frederick.
And Frederick pays with forged banknotes. They're worthless.
Utterly cheated.
Napoleon is furious. He pronounces a death sentence on Frederick and warns everyone to prepare for the worst. An attack is expected immediately.
And it comes. Frederick and about 15 of his men attack Animal Farm, this time with guns. This is the second major conflict, the Battle of the Windmill.
The animals fight with incredible bravery, spurred on by fury at the betrayal, but they suffer heavy losses against the firearms. They're driven back.
And Frederick's men achieve their main objective. They drill a hole in the base of the newly finished windmill and blow it up with blasting powder.
Gone, just like that, all their work.
The animals are enraged by this wanton destruction of something they built with such effort. They charge again, heedless of the bullets, and manage to drive the men off the farm.
But the cost is immense. Many animals are killed, almost everyone is wounded. Boxer is injured a split hoof, pellets under the skin in his leg.
And Squealer, who was conspicuously absent during the fighting,
Of course.
reappears, skipping joyfully, ringing the bell, trying to spin this devastating loss and destruction as a great victory. He argues that they drove the enemy off their sacred soil, so it is a victory.
Boxer, in his pain and simple honesty, cuts through the propaganda for just a moment. He asks, "What victory? They have destroyed the windmill, and we had worked on it for 2 years." Squealer insists driving the enemy off is the victory. Boxer murmurs, "Then we have won back what we had before."
He sees the devastating truth of the loss, the futility, even if Squealer tries to declare triumph.
But despite the heavy losses, the destruction, the injuries, official celebrations are held. Speeches, songs, firing the gun, a special apple for every animal, 2 ounces of corn for each bird.
Got to keep morale up, right?
The battle is named the Battle of the Windmill. Napoleon awards himself a new decoration, the Order of the Green Banner. And somehow, the forged banknotes, the fact they were cheated by Frederick, that gets forgotten in the midst of the supposed victory celebrations.
Conveniently buried under the patriotic fervor. A few days later, a crash is heard from the farmhouse. The pigs have found a case of whiskey in the cellars.
They drink it. They're singing, shouting, then silence. The next morning, Squealer appears looking unwell and announces terrible news. Comrade Napoleon is dying.
A dramatic ploy.
Totally. But by evening, Napoleon has recovered. Soon after, the pigs somehow acquire money to buy books on brewing and distilling, and the small paddock originally set aside for retired animals.
That little patch of grazing land.
It's plowed up. Napoleon orders it sown with barley. For beer, presumably.
And around this time, Squealer is seen late one night near the barn wall where the commandments are written, with a ladder and a pot of white paint. He falls off the ladder. The animals don't quite understand what they saw.
But a few days later, Muriel reads the 5th commandment again. It used to be, "No animal shall drink alcohol." Now it reads, "No animal shall drink alcohol to excess."
Another subtle, crucial modification, justifying the pig's behavior after the fact.
Okay, chapter 9 then jumps forward. Boxer's split hoof is slow to heal, but he refuses to take time off. He wants to see the windmill well underway before he reaches the retirement age.
He still believes in that promise of retirement. The pension corn? Hey, maybe a carrot or apple.
But his strength is failing. He works relentlessly on rebuilding the windmill again. Clover and Benjamin warn him to take care of himself, but he pushes on. His ambition is everything.
Life continues to be hard that winter. Rations are readjusted. Squealer calls it a readjustment, never a reduction, but it means less food. Still, Squealer reads out figures showing increases in everything, proving life is better than under Jones.
There's more formality now. Spontaneous demonstrations are held weekly, marching past Napoleon, celebrating the struggles and triumphs. It keeps them busy, gives a sense of pride, even if their bellies are empty.
Animal Farm is proclaimed a republic, and Napoleon is, naturally, elected president unanimously. There was only one candidate.
And Moses the Raven returns, still talking about Sugar Candy Mountain. Interestingly, the pigs now tolerate him, even give him a daily allowance of beer. Perhaps his message of reward in another life is useful now.
Keeps the animals hoping for something beyond their current hardship.
Then, the moment everyone dreads, Boxer collapses while dragging stone to the windmill site. His lungs have given out.
He's finally broken.
He lies in his stall, waiting. He tells Clover and Benjamin he's actually looking forward to retirement now, hoping to spend his last years learning the rest of the alphabet.
Heartbreaking.
The animals are distraught. Squealer announces Napoleon has made arrangements to send Boxer to the veterinary surgeon in Willingdon for treatment. Special, expensive treatment.
Only Clover and Benjamin stay with him while they wait for the transport.
And then the van arrives to take him away. But Benjamin, the cynical old donkey, who rarely speaks, suddenly becomes agitated. He finally reads the side of the van aloud.
What does it say?
Alfred Simmons, horse slaughterer and glue boiler, Willingdon. Dealer in hides and bone meal. Kennel supplied.
Oh no, the knackers.
Exactly. Benjamin understands immediately. Boxer isn't going to a hospital, he's being sold to the glue factory.
The animals cry out, try to warn Boxer. He tries to kick his way out of the van, but he's too weak now. The van drives away, taking him to his death.
It's the ultimate betrayal of the most loyal follower. 3 days later, Squealer announces Boxer died peacefully in the hospital despite receiving the best care.
The official story.
He claims he was there at the end, and Boxer's last words were supposedly whispered into his ear. "Forward, comrades! Forward in the name of the rebellion! Long live Animal Farm! Long live Comrade Napoleon! Napoleon is always right."
Such blatant lies. He even explains away the van, saying the vet had just bought it from the knacker and hadn't had time to repaint it yet. A ridiculous story.
But the animals, wanting to believe, grieving, persuaded by Squealer's emotion, they are relieved and they believe him.
And the money the pigs got from selling Boxer. A few days later, a grocer's van delivers a large crate to the farmhouse. That night, sounds of loud singing and quarreling come from inside. The pigs had bought themselves another case of whiskey.
They literally drank the price of Boxer's life. It's devastating.
Years pass now. Chapter 10 jumps forward significantly. Most of the animals who remember the days before the rebellion are dead. Jones died elsewhere, Old Major, Snowball, presumably. Boxer. Clover is old. Benjamin is the same.
Many new animals have been born or bought who only know the farm under Napoleon. They accept the stories they're told about the rebellion dimly, as tradition. The farm is larger, more prosperous, 2 fields bought from Pilkington.
But the reality for the working animals hasn't improved. Their lives are still hard, laborious, often cold and hungry. They work ceaselessly. But they still cling to some pride. They believe they are members of Animal Farm, the only farm owned and operated by animals. They feel they work for themselves, even if the evidence suggests otherwise.
The pigs and dogs, however, have multiplied and live in comfort. They don't produce food themselves, but engage in supervision and organization, which seems to involve endless reports, minutes, memos, files that are promptly burned in the furnace, work the other animals couldn't possibly understand.
The first windmill, rebuilt, isn't used for generating electricity for stalls with light and hot water as Snowball dreamed. It's used for milling corn, which brings in a good profit.
A second windmill is now being built, supposedly for electricity this time, but Napoleon dismisses the old dreams of comfort, the 3-day week, the electric lights, as contrary to the spirit of animalism. True happiness, he says, lies in working hard and living frugally.
The original principles has vanished. The 7 commandments are long gone from memory for most, except perhaps Clover and Benjamin. The newcomers know nothing. The only things they hold on to are that fragile pride in not serving humans and the increasingly abstract idea of equality.
And then, in this final chapter, comes the ultimate shocking transformation. One day, Squealer takes the sheep away to a secluded spot and keeps them there for a week, teaching them something new.
Building up to the final reveal.
Exactly. Shortly after they return, the animals are startled to see Squealer walking on his hind legs.
Then the other pigs emerge from the farmhouse, also walking on their hind legs. And finally, Napoleon himself appears, upright, carrying a whip in his trotter.
It's a stunning, terrifying sight. The animals are speechless. And just as some might be about to protest,
The sheep break into their new rehearsed chant. 4 legs good, 2 legs better, 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
over and over again, drowning out everything else. Later, Benjamin and Clover go to the end of the big barn where the 7 commandments were written. The wall has been whitewashed. There's only one commandment left.
What does it say?
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
The final, cynical corruption of the original principle. It encapsulates everything that has happened.
After this, the pigs fully adopt human ways. They start carrying whips, subscribing to magazines, listening to the radio, installing a telephone. They wear clothes found in Mr. Jones's wardrobe.
They become indistinguishable from the humans they overthrew in behavior and appearance.
The final scene drives this home. One afternoon, a delegation of human farmers, including Mr. Pilkington, comes to tour the farm. The animals, curious and uneasy, creep up to the farmhouse garden and look through the dining room window.
What do they see?
Inside, the pigs and the humans are sitting around the table, playing cards, drinking beer, laughing. It looks like a party.
Mr. Pilkington makes a speech praising Napoleon and the efficiency of Animal Farm. He specifically notes with admiration that the lower animals on Animal Farm do more work and receive less food than any animals in the county. He toasts to the prosperity of Animal Farm.
Then Napoleon makes a speech. He assures the humans there's no conflict of interest. He talks about doing away with the last peculiar customs, stopping the animals calling each other comrade, suppressing the Sunday morning marches past Old Major's skull, which he reveals has recently been buried, and even changing the flag, removing the white hoof and horn.
Erasing the last symbols of the revolution.
And he makes the final announcement, the ultimate reversal. The name of the farm is being changed back. It will once again be known by its correct and original name.
The Manor Farm.
Exactly. He toasts to the prosperity of the manor farm. The humans applaud. Then they resume their card game. A quarrel breaks out. Napoleon and Pilkington have apparently both played an ace of spades simultaneously.
Cheating each other, just like old times.
And as the animals outside watch this scene, the shouting, the faces flushed with drink, something seems strange. They look from pig to man, and from man to pig, and back again.
And the final line of the book.
It was impossible to say which was which.
So yeah, tracking the story just purely from the text, you see that arc so clearly. Starting with this, initial hopeful rebellion driven by clear principles against human tyranny.
To the practical realities that, well, allow cleverness and force personified by Napoleon and Squealer and the dogs to consolidate power, creating a new ruling class almost immediately, starting with that milk.
Yeah. And the narrative shows step by step how those core principles equality, no human vices are gradually corrupted and manipulated. Through propaganda, the constant rewriting of history, creating scapegoats like Snowball and just raw fear.
While the ruling pigs increase their privilege and comfort, the hardship for the majority of animals actually worsens over time. Their loyalty, especially boxers and their labor, are ruthlessly exploited.
The text leads us just inexorably to that final state, where the animal rulers have fully adopted the methods, the vices, even the physical appearance of their former human masters. It results in a tyranny that is, well, indistinguishable from, or maybe even worse than, the one they originally overthrew.
It really highlights how those mechanisms described right there in the text, Squealer's spin, the dog's force, changing the commandments, blaming Snowball for everything, controlling the food, exploiting loyalty, how they were all used systematically to dismantle the initial ideals and just maintain power for the few.
It demonstrates so powerfully how fear and the manipulation of information, the control of language, can make even obvious contradictions acceptable. It can erase collective memory, allowing a new form of oppression to take root, ironically, under the banner of the original revolution.
And thinking about that final image, the animals looking through the window, unable to tell who is pig and who is man.
What does that ending, drawn straight from the text itself, suggest about the nature of power? Is the power, maybe regardless of who holds it, tends to corrupt in similar ways, that the methods of control are universal?
And what does it really mean when a revolution comes full circle like that, ending up in a place that looks almost exactly like where it began, just with different faces in charge?
Something profound to consider, I think, as you reflect on this deep dive into Orwell's text.